Hello, 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 everybody. It is a Friday. Goodness. And today you can see, right, that we have a guest. Before I introduce the guest, I would like to say hello to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who, as always, is standing to my right side here. And I'd like to say hello to Chris. Chris can't say hello back because for some reason or another, if we want to hear Chris, we have to do 3 screens. If only we were more technical, everybody. If only we were more technical, we would know what to do about that, but we don't. So, all right. So it is Friday, and I did let everybody know, and Chris let everybody know that today we have a guest, and we are going to do what we like to call the bottom brick exercise. And if you watch carefully, you'll see how it works. So let's first of all say hello to Josephine. Josephine, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Are you nervous? Are you scared?
Very nervous, not so scared.
Don't be nervous, my darling. You'll be fine.
Thank you.
So I'm hoping that we can see you properly because for some reason or another there seems to be a shadow or something to your face. If you could slightly move there, that's perfect. Now we can see you perfectly. Okay, so Josephine volunteered, right, Josephine? Do you know what you volunteered for?
Not exactly. I know I decided it many years ago. If a psychic ever asked for volunteers, I was going to volunteer.
All right, I'm going to ask you if you can move back to where you were because you keep disappearing from the screen. So you need to move over just a little bit, just slightly to your... There, perfect. That's perfect. Now I can't say don't move because it's like saying don't breathe. Eventually you're going to have to, but that's perfect. Now, and if we sort of lose your face again, I'll just keep saying just which way are you moving? To the right or to the left? To the right, right? Are you...
That's okay. To the right. This is to the left. Yeah.
All right. So I'll just give you little hints. You're out, Josephine. Go right. Go right, and then you'll know. And then you'll know I'm asking you to come back onto the screen fully.
Left.
So, right. All right. So let's start here. So we asked for volunteers from people who had any issues, anything that they've struggled with over the years. Josephine, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? And then would you like to tell us why did you volunteer? What's going on? Can you help us to understand this?
Okay. Well, I'm 62 with 5 adult children. And wow. I grew up in Australia, but I was born in England. And I started all throughout my childhood till I was in my 20s. And I still feel the kind of fear that I still feel a lot of fear and tension inside me. But I did finally learn how to talk without a stutter when someone I didn't really know, maybe I'd seen them 2 or 3 times, told me to pretend I was singing. So that's how I started that way, and it just got better and better.
That's how you conquered that awful thing that was going on with you, that stuttering that you... So you conquered it through pretending to sing. I can't understand why anybody would pretend to sing rather than just sing, but maybe you've got...
But you see, I have to talk. So while I'm talking, I'm pretending to sing. I kind of make it a little lighter, a little less tense, Instead of Joes, especially my name, I would stutter every time in class. If they asked my name, I go,
Oh yeah. Okay, so how has this affected you through your life? I mean, you said you have 5 children. That's an achievement in itself, right? So how has this, this stuttering and this obviously anxiousness when you were younger, how has it affected you throughout your life? What what has been the result of that, do you think?
A lot of fear in social situations, a lot of holding back, retreating inside myself, unable, not saying the things that need to be said. And definitely when it came to tough love, I could hardly ever do that with my children. I could serve them and do what they wanted. But I saw a lack, a serious lack. I think once or twice I tried really hard and I was able to do it. But yeah, many times I don't say what needs to be said. And I also think I have a sense of rejection when it's not even there. I sense the other person is rejecting me. Oversensitive to thinking somebody else has something against me, unless they're overtly positive, you know? I thrive with people who are overtly supportive and grateful and happy, and yeah.
Okay.
But
So, all right. So we're going to do what is called the bottom brick exercise, and just to give you a heads up, I have given you a little bit of a heads up, but for those who are watching, a little bit of a heads up, because it can get a little bit tough. Where I'm going to be asking you to do some things that you might not find so easy to do, and I'm going to push you. But I'll do it gently. I won't send you flying off into a great, awful, nasty void. I'll push you, but I'll do it gently, and I won't let you stumble too much. So I'll be very gentle and very careful with you. But this is not an easy exercise until you get started. Once you get started, you'll find it easier and easier to do. But before we start with this exercise, I just want to tell everybody out there, and I also want to say this to you too, Josephine. I'm going to ask you some very sort of personal questions. I'm going to ask you to go back in time a little bit. And just to be clear, this is not about pointing the finger. This is not about blaming people for what has happened to you. This is not about saying, well, it's his fault or her fault because. So we're not pointing the finger anywhere. So when I'm asking you these questions, you may hesitate because you don't want to point the finger, or you don't want to say, well, this happened and that person did this, or I felt this person made me feel this way. I don't want you to hesitate, because we are not criticizing. We're all human. We all make mistakes. And I know that your family, look, I'm a mother, you're a mother. We know we've made a trillion mistakes, right? So we're not judging anybody here, and we are not pointing the finger. I'm going to ask you, because we can only see a part of your face again, so I'm going to ask you to move to there you are. And if you, I don't know whether you're sitting at a computer or what you're sitting at, but if you can sort of adjust so you don't keep sort of sliding back and out of the picture, just like I'm doing there. Just try and stay, if you can, just exactly where you are. All right. So now, can you remember roughly when your stuttering started, Josephine?
I can't remember.
So
No.
for as long as you can remember, since you were a little girl, yes?
Yeah, as long as I can remember, I stuttered.
Okay.
But my dad did tell me that I was delayed in my speech, and he's sorry. He thinks maybe he pushed too much to get me to
Well,
talk.
let's not worry about your dad. I'm
Okay,
sure he did a great job as a dad. So we're not pointing fingers and
that's
we're
right.
not judging. Okay. So what I'd like you to do for me, if you can, because this is you said it yourself. You started hiding. You started hiding yourself, right? You said that.
Yes.
And for all of us, every single one of us has had this happen to us. Some of us to a lesser degree, but we've all been in a position where we've, desperately wanted to build a wall, right? And somebody says something to us and it affects us, a brick. Somebody else says something which confirms what somebody says, another brick. Somebody else says something, and as we get older and people say things, maybe not even meaning to offend us, but nevertheless, because we have become so sensitive and so nervous and afraid of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, or being the wrong kind of person. And because we so want to please the people around us very often, those bricks keep piling up, right? And those who are listening to us, a lot of people will be nodding as they're listening to this, because this is how we begin to build a wall around us. And we build that wall and we often become defensive. And we hide behind that wall and we become afraid. And what happens is the higher the wall becomes, the more we think we're protecting ourselves, but actually behind that wall, it's really lonely. It's not nice to be behind that wall. And then what happens is that we become so comfortable with the wall, we become so comfortable with hiding, Josephine, that now we don't want to come out. And now when we try to come out, that stuttering gets harder. And that stuttering can be in your speech, but it also can be in your mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be with your speech. It's just, it's there. And it's very, very hard. It's a brave person who dares to come from behind that wall and say, look, I'm done with hiding behind that wall. This is me. So this is, I think that this is what's been happening to you all of your life. And that wall is so comfortable. I mean, the fact that you volunteered tells me you're sick to death of hiding behind the wall and you want to be free. Does this make sense to you, Josephine?
Yes, it does.
You
I've been pushing hard for my freedom.
You want to be free, and you've tried so many things to try to help yourself. If I just do this, if I just do that, but nothing seems to work. And the reason that it doesn't work is before that wall comes down, we've got to look at what caused it. What was the bottom brick? What was that first little drop of poison that when we're children, we are so, we're open, and we want our parents to love us, and we want our sisters, our siblings, and to care. We don't expect the awful stuff to come from them, and sometimes it doesn't, but very often it does, because that's what families are. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to think, if you can, very carefully, can you remember the first experience that you had when somebody, a situation, or a person made you feel less? Can you remember when that first feeling of feeling less than, whether it's not good enough or whether it's confusion, you're a child, you don't know what's going on, you don't understand anymore what's going on. There might be some fear in there, not necessarily fear of a person, but fear of the fact that you don't know what's going on. But when can you pinpoint for me that first moment that tiny little drop of poison dropped into your life when you felt less than? Hold on, Chris, we've lost sound. I've lost sound here. Chris,
I'm seeing that Josephine's internet service has gone red. It's a little bit weak. Can you reposition where you're at so you have a stronger internet?
We actually, Josephine, can you hear her, Chris, at all? Because I can't hear at all.
No. But her internet signal is showing very poor.
Okay.
So it looks like she's logging off, and we'll log back on.
Okay. So we're going to ask everybody who's listening here to this to be really patient with us. We're not sure what has happened, but when we get her back, oh, here we go. Are we getting her back, Chris? Oh, there you are. Josephine, say something to me. Josephine, say hello to me. Can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear Josephine, Chris. Josephine, check your microphone. Did you inadvertently switch off your microphone? We can't hear you, darling. We absolutely can't hear you. Chris, what do you think? Has she got a microphone off, maybe?
Well, you do, when you log in and out, you have to give permission to a camera and a microphone. So
Okay.
Josephine can try that, because we tried it a couple of times this morning. No, it's still not working.
Okay. Oh, this is very disappointing, because we were doing so well here.
Yeah, her internet went weak on her. You know, everybody on their phone has the 4 bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hers went to almost off.
Okay. Still
No,
can't hear. No. Can you hear her at all? Should I come off and come back on, Chris?
no, you're fine.
Okay, we're asking everybody to be really, really, really patient. If we can't get Josephine back on, we should just do this at another time. And if we can't get her back on, that's okay, because I can give you all a really great exercise that you can do for your own selves. How about that? Let's see. I still can't hear her, Chris. Her microphone is not on. I cannot hear you, my darling. How frustrating this is, but we have lots of patience. Don't worry, Josephine. We can wait for you. It's okay. I still can't hear you, my love, but can you look at your screen, darling, and see if your microphone is on? If you're on an iPad, I'd tell you exactly where to look, but I'm not, so. I'm wondering, Josephine, did you press the do not disturb thing? Because you might want to, maybe you should unhook that and see if that makes a difference to the sound. She might have inadvertently switched the sound off, Chris.
Well, it's very strange, because it was happening mid-sentence, so it's not like she did anything other than I saw the internet power go down.
Right. Right. Okay.
One of the people in our chat room says, if other people are on in the house with you and they may be using your bandwidth, maybe you can ask them to temporarily refrain from using the internet.
Yes, Josephine, if you know of someone else who's using the internet while you're on, you have to just get them to stop. But we can wait for you. We've got lots of time, and those who love me will stay on, and those who don't love me will just get off and be bored, and just then there's nothing we can do about that. Still can't hear her, right, Chris? We can't.
No, I can't.
We can't get it back. This is very disappointing. But not to worry. We'll give it just a few more minutes, and if we can't get it back on, if we can't get the sound back on, then we will do something else. I wouldn't not do something for everybody listening in. Does anybody else have anybody making any comments as to what we're listening to here?
Well, everybody's commenting great support for Josephine.
Okay. Good.
So
We still can't hear. So can you say something, Josephine? No.
Try now. No, I tried logging her off and logging her back on, and that doesn't work either. I'm at a loss as to how to help here. Because Josephine's
Okay.
tried logging off, and we've tried to log off for her and log her back in.
Okay, Josephine, if you can hear me, nod. You are lovely, and I promise you, we could try this another day, or you can get with Chris and we can figure out what's going on with the sound and so on. I'm just hoping that sound is all of a sudden going to come right back on, but it isn't doing that, is it? Chris will get back in touch with you, okay? And we shall do this another day. I promise I'm not going to leave you hanging here. And if you're willing to do this and try again, because you were doing really beautifully, so if you're willing to try again, then that's exactly what we should do. And we should just go straight from where we left off here. If in the meantime you can think about that question that I asked you, when was the first time that you felt less than? And if you can pinpoint that moment for me, then absolutely we shall try and bring you back to that. Everybody here is being very supportive of you, I have to say. We're getting some very nice comments. So I want you to come back. You will come back, won't you? We will do this again. Don't leave me. Josephine, don't leave me. We're going to try and see if we can help you. In the meantime, you can still hear me, right, Josephine? So you can see me. Okay, so I'm going to then, because we can't hear you, so we can't do this with you today. I'm going to talk about my bottom brick, because as I was about to do this with you, Josephine, it reminded me of Chris, can you put me on full screen here? Okay, so I'm not anywhere now. I can't see myself. Can you see me, Chris? Because I can't see myself.
Yes, you are on full screen.
And well, now I can't hear you either. So this is not, all I can see is a black screen in front of my face. That's all I can see.
You can't hear me now?
Very faintly. So I'm not so much worried about that, but all I can see is a black screen, or, well, I can see my left shoulder there. That's all I can see. So talk about technical difficulties. It's so disappointing, because I was really looking forward to doing this, and we will continue to do this with Josephine if she'll come back and try this with us again. We obviously have to fix stuff. Can people see me, Chris?
Yes, they're saying they can hear you and see you fine.
Okay, well, there you are. I can hear you now. I don't know what you did with the sound, but I can hear you. As long as people can see me, because I look as if I've got a big black box in front of me. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I was thinking this morning, we all of us have that bottom brick, if you like. We all of us have that one moment in our lives which can affect us. We talked about the ripple effect. Our thought for the week is the ripple effect, and how what we say and what we do and the actions that we take can really affect those around us. And we can see the ripples on the surface, so we can see what effect we have, let's say, immediately. We can see when we look at people if we've offended them, or if they're happy, or whatever it is. But what we don't see, when that you throw the stone into the pond and the stone sinks down and down and down, what we don't see is the ripples going deeper and deeper and deeper. So in other words, we're affected very deeply, and the ripples go out deeply. So we don't necessarily see how we affect people in a very deep way. And often when we're children, we'll have, let's say, that first little drop of poison, or that first thing that, somebody might say that makes us feel less. It makes us feel less than we should. As children, it makes us feel so much less, confused, frightened, etc., etc. So I'm going to tell you all about my bottom brick, and maybe you'd all like to think about your bottom brick. Again, this is not about pointing fingers. It is not about criticizing. It is not about saying, well, if she hadn't done this, or if he hadn't done that, or if she hadn't said so and so, I wouldn't be feeling this way. It's not about that. It's about trying to figure out why we are the way we are, why we become anxious, why we become nervous, and how it affects us through our lives. And once we can get to the root of the problem, that bottom brick, once we get to the first tiny drop of poison, and we recognize that first tiny drop of poison, once we get to that, we can often then yank out that root, pull out that bottom brick, and the wall begins to tumble down around us. We're able to become more confident, more aware. Once we know what has caused our issue, we can fix it. It's when we don't know and we keep trying to fix and we keep trying to fix, but we don't know where that first bottom brick came from. So if we don't know where it came from, we can't heal it, we can't fix it, we can't do anything about it. My bottom brick is a memory, first of all. I was probably not more than 3 years old. And I only know that because I was able to sit under the bed, in my bed. I was able to sit under the bed. And I remember sitting on the floor, staring up at the springs in my bed. Of course, it was an old-fashioned bed. I remember staring up at the springs, and I remember the fear, the terror that I felt. I was stuffed into the far corner, the furthest away from anyone being able to reach for me. And I can remember hiding there, being terrified and listening to all of the shouting that was going on around. I'm assuming that it was my father, but I don't know for sure that it was my father. But I could hear a man's voice screaming, yelling, "Where is she? It's like, when I get my hands on her, I'm going to kill her." And then I could hear my mother's voice, and I do know that it was my mother's voice, although I'm not certain about my father's voice. But my mother shouting at him and then fighting, and she's saying, calm down, calm down. And all I could remember, this little 3-year-old child sitting under the bed, trembling and being absolutely terrified. And I sat there for I don't know how long, until all of a sudden a hand and an arm came under the bed and grabbed me and hauled me, sliding me across the floor, and hauled me out from under the bed. This was my mother. I remember it very clearly. I remember she dragged me. She didn't pick me up. I was only 3. She could have picked me up, but I remember being dragged across the floor, hauled out of the bedroom, down the stairs, and out into the street. I remember her dragging me across the street and to some houses. I didn't know who lived there. We went into a house. She dragged me, and I was being dragged, and I remember crying and trying to sort of walk on my legs fast enough and stumbling continually because she was in a hurry and I couldn't keep up with her, and she was dragging me down the street. And at some point she went into somebody's house, into somebody's kitchen. She opened the door and she shoved me in the door. She shoved me into the kitchen where there were people, a few people. I didn't know who they were, didn't recognize them at all, but there were these people who were standing in the kitchen, and she shoved me in there, and I stumbled as I went into the kitchen, and she yelled at these people, keep her here, he'll kill her if he gets hold of her." And I can remember, I was only 3 years old, but I remember the words really clearly. And I can remember as she was dragging me out from under the bed and through the bedroom and down the stairs and out into the street and up the road. I can remember all the time she was cursing and screaming at me, and I had no clue at all what I'd done, not a clue. But I do remember from that moment on, I don't remember what happened after that. I've no idea. Don't remember anybody coming and taking me back, but they must have done. I don't remember anybody in that kitchen saying anything to me, but they must have done. And from that moment on, I felt, and of course, when you're a child, you can't quite put it into words, can you? But in retrospect, of course, I remember quite clearly feeling less. Well, actually, not just feeling less, knowing that I was less. I was nothing. And that had an effect on me for all of my childhood and into my adulthood. I built my wall so high, you could not believe how high I built my wall and how solid that wall was. And uh, looking back, and when I was a teenager and then I was in my 20s, and looking back on that, I can see how hiding behind my wall and being terrified and always feeling not enough, always feeling like I was never enough. And of course, if it was just that one incident, I probably would have been able to deal with it. But then other things compound it. So you know, you have your siblings who call you a crybaby. You have, sort of them poking fun at you. You have your mother telling them, oh, she's pigeon chested. And so they all make fun of you because you're pigeon chested. And so all of that awfulness, all of that negativity just compounds that initial feeling less, that initial drop of poison that comes into you that makes you feel less than you are. Now, my bottom brick, you might say it's a bit extreme. Now, let's look at it from another point of view, right? Here is a child hiding under a bed. She's just a little girl. She's only 3 years old. She's obviously sobbing and sobbing, and she doesn't know. She's terrified. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what she did to create the issue. And an arm comes out from under the bed, and arms go around her, and they comfort her, and they tell her not to worry and not to be frightened. It's still the bottom brick, because the terror, the fright, the fear is still the bottom brick, but the comfort afterwards makes it less than or more bearable. However, if other things compound and compound, and other things go on top of and on top of, then it creates that bottom brick is solid, and then another brick goes on the wall, and then another brick goes on the wall. So even if I had a loving parent who held me and made me feel better and made me understand it was not something that I did, I would have still had that little tiny drop of poison, but I would have been able to deal with it better, to cope with it better. Now, knowing that that's where my little drop of poison came from, knowing that that's how it was, when I look at my situation, I look at my parents, because I know where this first feeling of being less than came from, I look at my parents and I can understand I'm not judging them. I'm not pointing the finger. I'm not saying, well, if my mother hadn't been so mean and so cruel, blah, 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 because you don't know, do you, what created that situation? You don't know what started it. And it's not about judging other people's behavior. It's just simply about understanding. We're all human, and we all of us have our human faults and failings. I'm a mother. I know how easy it is to say something that can be hurtful to my child, even when I don't intend it to be so. We all make mistakes. So when we're doing the bottom brick, and when we're looking to sort of remove that first brick, when you remove the foundation of a brick wall, then it's going to come down. Sooner or later, it's going to come down, which is a good thing. because it means that we don't need to hide anymore. So again, I'm stressing to all of you, it is not about pointing the finger. It's not about judging other people and other people's behavior. It really is not about that at all. It's simply about understanding what happened and being able to come to terms with the fact that whatever was going on, these people were doing the best they could with the knowledge that they had. And am I going to let them destroy me? Am I going to let the fact that my parents hated each other destroy me? Well, they did a pretty good job, but at some point you say to yourself, well, wait a minute, because I'm a grown-up now. I'm either going to live in the past and be a victim, or I'm actually not going to be a victim. I'm just going to be me. And from now on, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to move forward. Chris, I don't know if you're still there. I have no idea what's going on. I've got a big white box in front of me now. So I've got a black box and then I've got a white box in front of me. Are you still there?
Well, I'm going to try one more time with Josephine. They've been working in the background. Josephine, can you say anything so we can hear you? No, we still can't hear you.
Okay, we shall reorganize with Josephine. I'm promising all of you, as long as Josephine is willing, I'm promising all of you, we shall come back to Josephine, because I really feel that she needs some help, because I feel that whatever is going on with Josephine is still going on with Josephine, and we need to help her to fix it, don't we? In the meantime, Chris, do we have any comments? Do we have anything from anybody here? Do we have anyone saying anything here to us?
So let me start back at the beginning. Let's see where it went. Bridget saying, sending light to you, brave lady, meaning Josephine, much love and respect. Jillian says that we're here for support. You are very brave.
Oh, how nice. How nice you all are.
Yeah. And then as we get to your story, Rosemary, Karen says, oh my God, so sorry, Rosemary. That was so scary for you, I am sure.
Well, let me just say this. We all have a bottom brick. We've all been in that position one way or another. Some of us less so, some of us more so. Please don't feel sorry for me, because, you know, I am so grateful, and I mean this honestly. I'm so grateful to my parents, because they taught me how not to be. So we're not judging, we're not feeling sorry. It's just something that happened that we're looking at and that we're facing. And when I tell my story to people, I'm telling my story in the hopes that I'm inspiring you to say to you, whatever has happened, we can help you to fix it, or you can help yourself to fix it once you understand what it is you need to do. Okay, Chris.
Judith says, oh, Rosemary, what a terrible experience for the 3-year-old you. Your story broke my heart for that child. There's going to be a couple more of them.
I'm not going to say, well, let's not. I do appreciate where it's coming from, and thank you, bless you all. But you don't have to feel sorry for me, because as I've said, and I mean it sincerely, we were told many years ago, I was told many years ago, my students were told many years ago by a lovely lady who was a very, very strong and a very beautiful entity. She used to come and talk to us from the spirit world. And she said to us once, if I could give you a gift, I would give you the gift of pain. I would give you the gift of heartache. And I would give you the gift of tears. Well, some gift that is, I think. But actually, it is through these things that we do learn and we do grow. And so we should never be afraid to cry. We should never be afraid to face our fears, although of course so many of us are. But it is a gift to us at the end of the day. And I think those who have gone through traumas of one kind or another will come out the other side. Sort of, you either come out, you've got a choice here. You come out a victim, or you come out a victor. So I'm not I'm not a victim. I refuse. So I'm going to take that pain. I'm going to take that hurt. I'm going to take those tears. I'm going to allow them to help me to become much more empathetic to other people who have those same tears and those same fears. Chris.
Elizabetta wants to know, did you forgive your mother?
It's not about forgiveness. And look, I just said, Elizabeth, I know where you're coming from. This is not about pointing fingers. This is not about blaming anybody, because we're all human beings. I think, I I I don't really believe in forgiveness as such. I believe it's much more important to have acceptance. This is who my mother was. I don't know what made her the way she was, but I'm guessing that she had some awful stuff going on in her childhood too. So it's not about me forgiving her, it's about me accepting her and accepting that this was the way it was. And you know what? I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna learn from it. I'm going to let it help me to understand others who are going through similar stuff.
Kat wants to know, what are your thoughts about where Gray Eagle would have been during your early years when you really needed some love and protection?
Oh, he was there, as were many people in the spirit world. But remember, I was a little girl that terrified the pants off me when people would come in the night. Every single night, I would hear whisperings. I would see faces. I was terrified. I didn't understand. I didn't get it. I didn't know. I was too small. Now I look back and I realize that I probably had visits from many people in the spirit world trying to comfort me, trying to help me. But what was I going to listen? No way. I was just shaking in my boots, hiding under the covers. It still didn't stop me seeing the faces, and it still didn't stop me hearing the voices. But I'm absolutely certain that they were trying to help and they were trying to guide me. But I was, no, no. You've got to be open. And I was certainly, as a child, not open. I had no idea.
Last question or comment. I have those walls too from feeling not enough, says Karen.
Well, hopefully as we go through this, and we will have Josephine back, and we do have other volunteers, so we will be doing this over the next few weeks, so that you can see if I can show you using someone as a guinea pig, as Josephine was blessedly a guinea pig for us, and we loved the fact that she was brave enough to do this, and we're keeping our fingers crossed she's still going to be brave enough to do this, but we're going to have other people as well. And as you watch and as you listen to me and as you listen to how I can help people to figure out what their issues are, and of course we're only just beginning, so you just need to sort of watch for this, pay attention, and and watch for this. I'm absolutely certain once you see it working and once you see people really, understanding what's going on and able to deal with their lives, once you see how this exercise works, you can apply that exercise for your own selves. You can apply what we do. And if you have a friend, or if have a sibling or somebody who wants to do it with you, all the better. And you can help each other. You've got to, so many people strive all of their lives to become better, to get over the stuff that happened to them. And what I'm saying is, before you can get over it, you've got to get under it. You've got to figure out what was the beginning of it. How did it first start? What was the very first drop of poison? What was the very, very first brick in your wall that you hide behind? That we've all had those walls, and we've all hidden behind them, myself included. And so once you can, it's sort of like, once you find the bottom brick, we can haul it out. It's a bit like a weed, isn't it? Or these feelings of anxiety and insecurity and not being enough. It's kind of like a weed that grows through us. And what happens with the weed when we try to pull a weed out of the ground? If we leave one teeny little root in there, we think we've got it all. But if there's one teeny little thread of a root in there, it'll come back. So we got to haul it out, and we got to just stamp on it to kill it, or whatever it is we do with that weed. We've got to make sure that it's dead. that we're not harboring anything else. We've looked at it, we've examined it, we've figured out why, or even if we haven't figured out why, we've figured out how it affected us. And that's the most important thing. And once we have got rid of that bottom brick, that drop of poison, once we start to cleanse ourselves from the bottom up, let's say, once we start to do that, the walls come down and we become stronger. We become more able to see what's going on with us. We can see how we are affected, how we've been affected, and then we can do something about it. So, anything else, Chris?
Yeah, two questions, Rosemary, that really should probably be looked at. Barb says, I realize when and how my bottom brick came about. I now find myself praying for the person who I feel started me on that journey.
Great. Oh, that's great. Just thinking about it and just realizing, and again, please, please, please listen to me. We are not pointing fingers. We are not judging others for their actions. This is not about judging people or finding someone to blame. This is not about pointing fingers. This is about taking a really good look at what happened to us and then accepting it and moving forward with it. You said there was another question, Chris?
Yes, Twiggy Leaf asks, how can we deal with the guilt that comes from separating ourselves from people who unknowingly or unintentionally hurt us? People who hurt us are coming from a place of their own brokenness, and we can't fix or change them. How do we deal with the guilt of separating ourselves from that situation?
Well, I think there's a big difference between separating yourself and removing yourself from the hurts and the pain. You don't have to stop connecting with people, you just have to understand. And as we get older, we can understand. People can only do to you what you allow them to do. Now, I have to say, and I have to be very honest about this, I definitely did separate myself from my mother. There was a point in my life when I was in my 30s and I had a conversation with my mother that turned into a confrontation, which is not what I wanted. But my mother refused to talk to me about the stuff that was going on. I was trying very hard to understand why she did the things that she did. And, all she would do is just turn around and point the finger at my father. And that was not what I was wanting at all. And a lot of what my mother did and a lot of what my mother said, my father wasn't even there at the time. When I told you that story, I wasn't even sure that it was my father who was ranting and raving in the house. It could have been one of my mother's boyfriends, for all I know. It doesn't matter because I'm not pointing the finger. But when, I said to my mother at some point during this ridiculous conversation where all she would do is say, well, you don't know the people who've stabbed me in the back, and not willing to take any responsibility or admit any culpability herself in any of it. And again, I just said to her, I'm not calling to have an argument. I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to have a relationship, or trying to build a relationship where I can understand. And she wouldn't have it, so I decided, and I said to her, then until you're ready to talk to me, I can't do this anymore. And I never saw my mother and never spoke to my mother again. And it was quite a long time, many years later, that she died. And that was weird too, because, when you decide that, I don't understand, Twiggy Leaf, why you're feeling any guilt here. Because when I decided that, I wasn't turning against my mother because I didn't like her, and I wasn't turning against my mother. I was just saying, I cannot be around this because it's toxic. This relationship is toxic and I can't be around it. So people can only do to you what you allow them to do. And I just was saying, I'm stopping the hurt. I'm not going to put myself in a position where it's going to keep going on and on and on, because then I would have been responsible for that toxic situation. So, Chris, I think, are we done?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm disappointed for Josephine, but I do hope that we can fix it all, and we'll let you all know. So keep, you know, my suggestion is, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, because that way you get the emails, and we don't. I promise we won't inundate you with emails. But you'll get the emails, and you'll get the information as to when we get Josephine back, and when we do this again, because we have other volunteers who've also agreed to do this with us. And I think it's going to be a very, very healing situation that we're going to be having here, because I think an awful lot of you can really learn from this and be inspired from this, I hope. So go to the website rosemaryaltea.com, or one word, and subscribe. We're getting ready for our webinar tomorrow. I'm excited about it. There are 1 or 2 tickets still left, not many, but there are 1 or 2 still left if anybody wants to join us on our webinar. And again, if you want to know more about that, please go to our website, and it will tell you all about how to sort of get there, how to get onto the webinar, how to deal with it. Tomorrow's webinar is all about connecting with the spirit world, giving messages from the spirit world, taking people's questions, and hopefully having their loved ones from the spirit world be able to answer those questions for them. So it should be a very interesting morning. Starts at 11. No, sorry, starts at 10, right, Chris? Starts
Yes,
10
10 to 1.
10 till 1. Oh gosh, 10 till 1. I almost wasn't there for the first hour. So starts at 10, goes to 1, with a couple of bathroom breaks. I had to laugh. We had somebody say yesterday, "Will we have bathroom breaks?" Yes, you'll have bathroom breaks, because I'll need to pee too, you know. So please, we're very sorry it didn't quite go as we planned this morning, but hey, it's technology, not a lot we can do about it. So, please, for all of you, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your lovely comments. We hope to keep on inspiring you. Please, all of you, thank you, Chris, by the way, thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Grey Eagle. I'd like to say thank you to all of you for joining us. Please have a very, very blessed rest of the day, everybody, and hopefully we shall see more of you in this fantastic 25 years anniversary of the Eagle and the Rose. 25 years. Am I really that old? I suppose I am, right? Anyway, we're going to keep celebrating all the way through the month, so watch for us, and don't forget the cooking show on Sunday morning also. So have a very blessed rest of the day, everybody, and we'll see you very soon. Bye bye.